Ahoy, this is Zdenka. I've got a whole bunch of tips and tricks when it comes to photography with Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. From basic photography and settings in photo mode to more advanced photography in pro photo mode. This video is brought to you by Colbor. First photos will be taken with basic photo mode. Let's start with photo size. In a basic photo mode, you can take photos in 12, 50 and 200 megapixel size. The files will be saved as JPEG or HEIF. That is newer compressed format. When you go to settings, advanced picture options, you can enable HEIF format here. When it is disabled, you will be getting JPEG format. Let's select the highest size, that is 200 megapixel. Here you can only use one-time main camera. If you press and hold, you will be able to use up to 10 times digital zoom. I don't like digital zoom as it always brings the quality a bit down, so I will stay with one-time zoom. The camera is on a tripod as I don't want any accidental shake. The grid is enabled for better composition. Before I take a shot, I will focus on the screen to select the area I want sharp. I will hold and lock it. When it comes to exposure, there are two options. If you will just take one photo or series of photos, you can adjust the brightness with the sun slider here. If you will be taking a series of photos in the same lighting conditions, you can actually press this icon to pull out more controls. Here is exposure. Once you adjust it with the slider, it will stay this way, so you don't need to do that with the sun slider all the time. I have the same light here, so I will adjust it until it gets a little bit darker. Now, all I have to do is only to lock the focus. When it comes to taking the actual shot, I could enable timer so I don't accidentally shake the camera when I press the shutter, but I have easier option as this tripod has a Bluetooth remote I will be using. There is one more thing I have to do, and that would be turning off the night shot feature. If the feature would be enabled, the shutter would stay open for a long time, so the smoke would be very blurry. Now, in this basic photo mode, I cannot control shutter speed. It will be automatic, so I already know that the smoke will be a bit blurry for sure. The motion will not be frozen. I will show you how to freeze the motion once we get to more advanced photography in pro photo mode. Let's take some shots. For those wondering, I'm just using RGB lights that I placed on the sides. It is best to use a grid over the lights for directional light so it doesn't spill in the background. I'm not using them because I can't find them. I gotta go through my gear and completely reorganize everything again. When it comes to creating smoke, you have to experiment with the settings as well. At first, I had the smoke set to strong and the fan slow. Then I lowered the strength of the smoke and the results were much better. If you want to take photos with ultra-wide camera and 5x telephoto, you have to lower the resolution to 50 megapixels. Now you have the option to use these cameras. If you press this icon again, you will see that you will be offered the same options as before, but you will not be able to enable motion photo, filters, and beauty mode. This is only available if you lower it down even more to 12 megapixels. You will also get one more zoom option, and that is 3x telephoto. Let's enable motion photo as there is a smoke movement, and let's see what we get here. Once you take the shot, you have the option to create a boomerang or slow motion. You can also disable it completely. What I should also mention is that in settings under advanced picture options, you can decide if the motion photo capture should happen before and after the shutter or before shutter only. So this would be when it comes to basic photo mode. Let's move to more advanced settings and photography. Let's go to pro photo mode where you can take photos in RAW format, as this format is not compressed and there are no color tone adjustments you get with JPEG or HEIF. RAW files retain all details in highlights and shadows, suitable for editing in Lightroom and printing in high quality. Before we get into photography, let's mention some important settings you should know. Let's go to Advanced Picture Options first and select Promote Picture Format. Here you have 3 options. If you don't need RAW format, you can select JPEG only. The other option is RAW and JPEG, and the last is RAW format only. I always select RAW and JPEG, as sometimes I need to share the photo quickly, so I need the JPEG. Let's return to Camera Settings and scroll down to General. Another setting I have enabled is Tracking Autofocus. I have Composition Guide, Grid Lines, and Level enabled. Under Settings to keep, I have all selected, as once you change settings in Pro Photo mode, you want the settings to stay the same. If you, for example, close the camera app and then you open the camera app again, it's not going to reset to default. The settings will be there. Let's leave the camera settings and let me show you how you can take photos in Pro Photo mode. The first thing I'm going to do is change the resolution from 12 megapixels to 50. Next to resolution is metering mode. Center weight is the default resolution. This one is good for close-up portraits and centered subjects. I'm going to stay with this one. If you were taking photos of landscapes, you would go with matrix. And the last one, spot metering, is for backlit subjects and high contrast scenes. I will be taking photos manually, so I will be tweaking everything on my own. Exposure monitor is next. I will keep it off as I really never use it. I prefer using the histogram, which is right here. When you tap on it, it will get bigger, so you can see what is going on with your photo. Let's go to the lower controls. The first thing I'm going to adjust is the white balance. My light is set to 5500 Kelvin, which is daylight, so I'm going to match it here. If you prefer taking photos in automatic mode, you would only adjust the exposure value so the photos are not too bright or too dark. This would be suitable for taking photos where there is no motion, as again, the shutter will be a little bit slower. There will be a blur. So if you want to take photos of something like the smoke or model flipping her hair around or using a fan, you need to set faster shutter speed or fast shutter speed. I'm going to go with 100/125th shutter speed, which is what I usually like to use. Let's bring the ISO as low as possible. This jewelry is highly reflective, so it's tricky to have it just right. Also, smartphone sensors don't do well with such highly reflective object. So if you will be experimenting with this type of photography, choose an object that is not so reflective. Now, I went with the extreme because that's my job. I wanted to see what the phone can do. I can do. I just need to test. When it comes to focus, if you want to try manual focus, you can tap here and then you just drag the slider. You know it is in focus when it is green. When it comes to this shot, I will just leave it automatic and lock it. It is important to lock it as the smoke could change the focus. Let's take some shots. At first, I was using again strong fog with low fan, and then I changed it to a low fog and low fan. I have to thank Colbor for making this video possible and supplying this brand new product, Colbor CF5, that won F Design Award 2025. My experience working with this product so far has been very good. It's very easy to use. The navigation is simple. Here are controls for fog strength, fan speed. You can also program it so it runs continuously for a certain time. If you have few of those, you can control them all at the same time through a remote control. You can bend it like this. I just decided to use it straight. There are 2 attachments. One is for standard white fog. The other one is actually RGB light and fan. It is attached by a magnet. You can change it to any light. It has 3 brightness levels. The fan also has 3 levels. The fan and the light can run at the same time. There is a port at the bottom, so you can mount it to a stand. I'm going to link it below for those interested. Let's take some macro outdoor shots. Spring is in full bloom. Right now is the best time to take these type of photos. For sure, you could just use a macro mode, but the photos will be just average. To get the most out of this phone, I will use a macro lens. I will be using the Reflex Super Telephoto 240mm lens with two macro extensions, 200 and 300. The advantage of this lens is that you don't need to be close to whatever you are taking photos of. Now, this lens is not going to work in default photo mode. You have to use Pro Photo mode instead. It can be used only with a telephoto camera, so this first one right here, you cannot use it with the main camera. When I take photos outdoors in good light, I usually first bring the ISO all the way down to 50. Then I will adjust the shutter speed accordingly to have a perfectly exposed image. Let's take some shots. When it comes to macro photography, there is one tip I would give you, and that is to experiment and take shots from different angles. Most of the people take macro shots from above, pointing the camera down, and get the most basic macro shots. If you want to get something different and unique, try to move around, perhaps getting super low, or if you can, take the image pointing up. I took this shot with a different phone, the same lens, and I was quite low, so I could get the legs and all the hair details. Let's cover some photo editing. When it comes to raw photos, you don't have to necessarily only edit them in Lightroom. You can also edit them directly on the phone. It's just going to be a little bit different process than it is with JPEG and HEIF. Let's start with RAW. The first thing you can do is fix the framing and horizon level with Generative Edit. Now let's hit the RAW editor icon. Here you can tweak your image before you move to a standard photo editor you would be using for JPEG and HEIF photos. Let's run through them all quickly. Exposure, which is going to make your image lighter or darker. Contrast, highlights, and shadows. The next is vibrance and saturation. What is the difference? Vibrance is more selective and primarily boosts muted colors, while saturation increases the color intensity of all colors in the image, even skin. The last controls are temperature and denoise. The nice thing about the RAW editor is that you can still see the histogram at the top. Once you are done tweaking the image the way you like, you will hit done, and that will take you to a standard photo editor. Once you are in standard photo editor, you can use Generative Edit. I'm not gonna go to Sketch to Edit as I really don't use it much. You can straighten the image and use filters. The filters are actually very helpful. When you select one you like, you can tweak it further with these controls: strength, color temperature, contrast, saturation, and film grain. Then you can tweak the image further with more controls, such as light balance and brightness. It is best to play with each tool to see what it can do to achieve the specific look. The next control takes you to draw, stickers, and text. What I really like is the last section of tools, especially color mix. Here you can select a specific color, then you can change or tweak further. Let's just select one of those colors and tweak it. You can adjust hue, saturation, and luminance. Give it a thumbs up if you found this tutorial helpful, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Let me know in the comment section below what else you would like to learn about S25 Ultra. Meanwhile, I'll see you in one of those videos next. Ciao. Ahoj.